Okay, let's talk about a skill that, I'm not kidding, can change everything. We're going to dive into how to build a super simple, actually workable system for taking notes that cuts down your stress and seriously boosts what you learn.
So, picture this. You just sat through an hour-long lecture or meeting. Your hand is cramping, you filled pages with notes, but later, when you look back at them, did any of it actually stick, or is it just a big, foggy blur?
If that question felt a little too real, you're probably stuck in what I call the note-taking trap. This is where you become a human photocopier. You write down every single word, but learn absolutely nothing. Your notes are just this giant wall of text, you can't find anything important, and when it's time to actually study, yeah, they're pretty much useless.
But here's the good news. This is so fixable, and today, we're going to build the exact system you need to do it.
So first things first, what are we even aiming for? What does a good note even look like? And let me tell you, it has nothing to do with how neat your handwriting is or how many colors you use. It's all about function. At the end of the day, all great notes follow 5 basic principles. They've got to be clear so you can find things at a glance. They have to be complete with all the key stuff in there. They need to be concise. We're talking short phrases, not novels. They should be connected, showing how one idea leads to another. And, this last one is the most important of all, they have to be checkable. Can you cover up the page and actually quiz yourself from it? If you can't, your notes aren't working hard enough for you yet. All right, let's get into the practical stuff. I'm going to give you a system. One template and one method that you can use for pretty much any subject, any class, any meeting, starting right now. Okay, so take a look at this template. The real magic here is how it gets you organized before you even start writing. Right at the top, you write down your goal. What should I be able to do after this? Then you've got these perfect little boxes for vocabulary, the main ideas, and a couple of really solid examples. There's even a spot for questions to ask later. And that summary box at the bottom, that's the key. It forces you to stop and think, okay, what did I really just learn in your own words? So how do you actually fill this out when a professor is talking a mile a minute? Easy. You use the split page method. During the lecture, you ignore that left column and just focus on capturing everything in the big main column. Just get it all down. Definitions, examples, whatever they write on the board. Then, later, after class, you go back and use that skinny left margin to process it all. That's where you'll pull out keywords and write quiz questions for yourself. And a quick pro tip to help you keep up, use abbreviations. Seriously, create your own shorthand. Don't write out therefore, just draw an arrow. A little triangle means change. This isn't just about saving time either. When you use symbols, you're encoding the ideas visually, and that actually helps you remember them better. Now listen up, because this is probably the most important slide of all. Don't just pack up your stuff and run out the door when class is over. Take 5, maybe 10 minutes, right there, right then, to clean up your notes. This is your golden window to fill in that left margin with your keywords and questions and to write that quick summary at the bottom. I promise you, this tiny little habit makes your notes 100 times more valuable. It's a total game changer. Okay, so we've got lectures covered. But what about that other beast, the dense, boring textbook? You can't just copy the whole thing, so how do you pull out what matters? Well, you turn passive reading into active learning. You go on a hunt for information. The best way to do this is with a method called PQ4R. Sounds complicated, but it's not. It basically turns reading into a mission. First, you preview the chapter. Just scan the headings and look at the pictures. Then you turn those headings into questions. What is the theory of whatever? Now you have a purpose. So when you read, you're not just letting your eyes glaze over, you're actively hunting for the answers to your questions. After that, you reflect for a minute, recite the main ideas out loud from memory, and then finally, you review by adding only the most important stuff to your note template. So we've captured the info, we've organized it, but having a perfect set of notes is only half the battle, right? How do we get that information out of the notebook and into our brains for the long term? How do we make it stick? This right here is probably the biggest mistake most people make when they study. On the left, you've got passive review, rereading your notes, highlighting half the page. It feels productive, but honestly, it has a really low impact on your memory. Now look at the right side. That's active recall. That's where you force your brain to pull the information out from scratch. Things like quizzing yourself with those margin questions or trying to solve a problem without looking at the answer. That little bit of struggle is what builds strong memories. That's where the real learning happens. And to make that knowledge last, you want to use spaced repetition. This just means instead of one massive, painful cram session, you do a few super short reviews spaced out over time. Just look at this schedule. A quick look the same day, then again the next day, a few days later, and so on. Every time you do this, you're sending a signal to your brain that says, hey, this stuff is important. Don't you dare forget it. And if you take away one thing, let it be this. Creating your own notes in your own words isn't just some chore you have to do before you can start learning. The very act of summarizing, connecting, and writing it down, that is learning. You're essentially learning it twice.
All right, let's do a quick-fire round of the biggest mistakes to avoid. Number 1, stop copying whole paragraphs from a textbook or a slide. Your brain just checks out. The goal is to process the idea and write down your version of it. Mistake number 2, the highlighter trap. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. When you highlight everything on the page, you've actually highlighted nothing. Nothing stands out. Be ruthless. Only highlight the absolute key term that triggers the whole concept.
And number 3, please stop rewriting your notes over and over just to make them prettier. It's a huge time sink and it's a passive activity. You'd be so much better off spending that same time actively quizzing yourself on the messy first draft.
And finally, mistake number 4, leaving confusing parts in your notes. If you hit something you don't understand, don't just skip it. Put a big question mark next to it and make it your mission to get an answer from a friend, the professor, a quick search, within 24 hours. Don't let those gaps fester.
So let's put it all together. Here's your new routine. It's super simple. After class, you take 5-10 minutes to add your cues and write your summary. At the end of the day, you take just 10 minutes to do a quick active recall quiz. And once a week, you spend maybe 20 minutes per subject consolidating everything onto a single summary sheet. That's it. It's so manageable, and trust me, it's incredibly powerful.
When you start doing this, your notes completely transform. They stop being a boring record of the past and become your ultimate active learning tool. So really, the only question left is, what are you going to do with all that time and mental energy you're about to save?